how do we get around that, the private investment in children? Like, I mean, it's given the situation, I mean, every parent would want to do that, right? How do we get around that? Is there any foreseeable solution around it, which would just then worsen the inequality?
I mean, you can get at this from different angles, right? One is to say that, and again, there are real world examples. In Northern Europe, where there isn't, for example, a huge private tuition industry, right? That is because they provide universal, high quality public services, right? So public services that cover everyone of such high quality that they squeeze out the private market. What can a tuition center offer that my public school doesn't? And not just my public school, but all the public schools in our country do that. So what do you leave? There is no gap in the market for the private tuition center. So we often say universal high quality public services is one way to squeeze out the shadow private industries that come in to kind of address people's insecurities and worries. And when I say insecurities and worries, this is something that Yenn has mentioned before, right? Which is, I mean, no parent is happy to be spending so much time and money on tuition. Which parent wants to do that? But they feel they have to because the stakes are very high. The consequences are very serious. They worry that if my child ends up in occupation A, his life will be very different than if he ended up in occupation B. That is to say, wage inequality itself is also related to people's anxieties about education and so on. So educational inequality, sometimes we hear about how schools should tweak some of the admission criteria or send their students out into the community to do community service and so on. All those programs are fine, right? But the root of educational inequality does not really lie in the education system. It's in all of society.
Yeah. So in fact, that what you just said, Koko, right? It can even reward people with more resources, right? Because then their children are able to do all of these extra activities, even though it comes from a good place, right? So there is a question before I move on, because you mentioned welfarist policies or more universalist policies. That's the term you used. There's a question from Ahmad. I don't think you can see it, or I don't know whether you can see it. What is the panel's perspective on policies to restrict the tuition industry? Or would sorry, yeah, carry on. Yeah.
I mean, I think getting to the root of why the industry exists is important. Yeah. So I think in general that if you want to fix a problem, you need to understand its basis. Yeah. So if you look closely at why parents behave the way they do, it's related to what Gokho just said about how they read the outcomes, right? What they think will happen if they don't provide. So in our groups, for example, when we ask parents whether tuition is a basic need, parents were very, very, there was a great deal of angst in this part of the discussion, where they felt like, yes, they do think it is, because the teachers cannot possibly pay attention to so many kids in the classroom, that if children fall behind, they will feel that this will really affect their confidence, and that then they will continue to do more poorly. They want their children to be able to be financially independent in the long run, because they also understand that all their needs in the future will need to be met by their participation in employment. And so they see that the stakes are very high. And so there's a sense of resignation. We had participants put this really quite well. She said, if Singapore, no meritocracy, no PSLE, no exam, then tuition no need lah. But that's not the world we live